There is a specific hour that the enemy has learned to dread, and it is not the hour of your loudest worship or your most eloquent prayer. It is the hour when everything is silent, when the world is asleep, when even your own defenses are lowered, and the veil between the spiritual and physical dimensions grows thin like a curtain worn through by years of friction. It is 4:44 in the morning, and if you have been waking up at that hour without understanding why, then this word is not a coincidence arriving in your life. It is a confirmation arriving at exactly the right moment, because confirmation is what heaven sends when you are about to step into something so large that the enemy has already begun mobilizing his final resistance. You did not stumble onto this message. You were escorted here by an assignment larger than your comprehension, and the tears already forming in the back of your throat are not weakness. They are the physical response of a soul finally hearing its own name spoken out loud after years of being called something lesser. You were named before the foundations of the earth were poured, and the enemy has spent every waking moment of his operation trying to make sure you forgot that name, because a chosen one who knows their name is the single most catastrophic force he cannot contain. So before we go one word further, understand this with every cell in your body. The war being waged over your life is not evidence of your vulnerability. It is evidence of your value. You do not deploy heavy artillery against an empty field. You deploy it against the thing you most fear will rise. You won't defeat this attack alone. Breaking these emotional hexes, these spiritual chains, these layers of coordinated oppression requires a higher code, a higher understanding, which is exactly why I just released the 3 keys to a prosperous life trilogy, whose unlocking link is in the pinned comment. Access it before the fog blinds you again, because what I am about to walk you through in this message demands that you have the full architecture of that knowledge in your hands. The enemy has been counting on you processing this in fragments, in pieces, in isolation, never connecting the dream to the betrayal, to the delay, to the financial collapse, to the physical symptom, to the relational breakdown. Never seeing that they are not separate misfortunes, but one coordinated campaign managed by one terrified entity who has been reading your assignment and building countermeasures against it for longer than you know. But the table has been flipped. Heaven intervened at 4:44 in the morning in that throne room, and what was decreed in that moment was not a gentle encouragement. It was a legal nullification of every case file the accuser had ever built against your name. 7 reversals were spoken. 7 decrees were stamped with blood that cannot be challenged, cannot be overturned, and cannot be delayed by any power operating beneath the throne of the Most High. Let us begin at the beginning. And the beginning is the dream you had that you cannot shake. It visits you in cycles, arriving when the pressure in your waking life is at its most unbearable. And in the dream, you are running. You are always running, but the destination never gets closer. Your legs move, but the ground does not change. You push with everything you have, and the effort is enormous. The sweat is real. The urgency is electric through every nerve in your body. But you are not moving. Your legs are made of something heavier than flesh, heavier than fear, heavier than grief, as if the very atmosphere around you has been thickened by a hostile intention that wants you to exhaust yourself without ever arriving. This is not a random firing of neurons during REM sleep. This is your spirit showing you the spiritual reality your natural eyes have been trained to deny. The persecution dream is one of the oldest and most documented forms of spiritual communication, and what it reveals is not your weakness, but the specific nature of the weapon being used against you. Something in the unseen realm has been assigned to create drag in your forward momentum. Every time you should have arrived at the breakthrough, every time the door should have opened, every time the provision should have landed, there was resistance. Not coincidence, not your fault. Resistance. Assigned, deliberate, targeted resistance from an entity operating on legal access that was granted by wounds you never finished healing, agreements you made in moments of desperation you barely remember, and vows spoken in rooms where the wrong spirit was listening. Your physical sensation in that dream, the leaden weight in your thighs, the burning in your lungs, the vertigo of maximum effort producing zero result, that is the felt experience of spiritual suppression. The intrusive thought that arrives with it, the thought that maybe you are simply not built for what you desire, that maybe the destination was never real, that maybe other people run and arrive but you only run, that thought is not yours. That thought is a planted seed from the entity creating the drag. The spiritual action being taken against you in that dream state is interception, a blocking spirit stationed at the gate of your breakthrough. But the primitive memory your soul carries beneath all of that suppression is the memory of flying, the memory of arriving before you even left, the memory of a you that existed before the attacks began, a you that moved through the world with a sovereign ease that the enemy needed to destroy before your assignment could be weaponized against his kingdom. The persecution dream is not a nightmare. It is a map showing you exactly where the chains are attached. The enemy's most sophisticated weapon is not the open assault. Open assaults are easy to recognize and therefore easy to resist. His most effective tool is the one that looks like love, that comes wrapped in the warmth of a smile, that arrives through the voice of someone you trusted enough to let past your defenses. The poisoned compliment is the spiritual warfare tactic that has undone more chosen ones than any visible attack, because it does not register on the radar of your spiritual discernment the way a curse does. It slides in beneath the frequency of your awareness and does its damage in the basement of your self-concept before you even know the wound exists. You know the smile I am describing. You have felt it. There is a person in your life, perhaps someone from your family, perhaps someone from your professional circle, perhaps someone who calls themselves your friend with a consistency that almost convinced you, who looks at you with a smile that does not reach their eyes. They speak well of you in public and they mean every calculated word, because the public praise is not generosity. It is surveillance. They are studying your reaction to praise, the way a predator studies prey's response to proximity. They tell you that you are gifted, and in the same breath, they add the clause, the small poisoned clause, the but that negates the compliment before it can land in your spirit as truth. You are so talented, but you always self-sabotage. You have so much potential, but you just can't seem to get out of your own way. I believe in you, but I wonder if the timing is right for this. Every but is a needle. Every carefully constructed doubt is a spiritual injection designed to create a slow internal hemorrhage of confidence that looks, from the outside, like your own insecurity. The psychological warfare operating through this tactic is the calculated weaponization of your trust. The narcissistic personality behind this smile is not confused about what they are doing. There is a deep and operational awareness that your light diminishes their relevance, and the goal is not your destruction so much as your perpetual dimming, keeping you bright enough to reflect well on their proximity to you, but never bright enough to outshine what they need to be seen as. In the spiritual tribunal, the one who speaks these poisoned words carries a weight they cannot comprehend in their natural mind, because words spoken against a chosen one do not fall to the floor. They enter the record. They become part of a case that will be examined in a courtroom that operates by laws deeper than anything written in human jurisprudence. But your divine promotion lives here too, because every poisoned compliment that was meant to keep you doubting yourself is being reversed into a testimony so specific, so documented, so undeniable, that when your vindication arrives, it will be impossible for the one who doubted you to look away. The smile that didn't reach their eyes will have nowhere to hide when the fullness of what heaven decreed over your life becomes visible in every dimension of your existence. The reversal of shame to honor begins here, in the precise undoing of every needle that was ever slipped beneath your skin by someone who needed you to stay small. There is a theft happening that goes deeper than the theft of your opportunities or your resources or your peace. There is a specific category of enemy that has been assigned to steal not what you have, but who you are. And this is the category of spiritual mimicry, the assignment of the copy, the entity that does not want your possessions, but your identity. You have felt this. You have watched someone orbit your life with an intensity that seemed like admiration until the moment it became appropriation. They began using your phrases. They began presenting your ideas as original thoughts that arrived in their own mind independently. They adopted your aesthetic, your approach, your language, your way of moving through the world with the particular signature that made you recognizable as you. And because you are a chosen one with a spirit of generosity, your first interpretation was flattery. But flattery does not copy with this level of precision. Flattery admires from a distance. What you experienced was duplication, an attempt to become so close to what you are that the original becomes indistinguishable from the counterfeit, and in the resulting confusion, the copy positions itself to receive what was always destined for the original. This is not an accident of personality. This is a spiritual tactic with an ancient name. The enemy cannot create. He can only counterfeit. He cannot generate original light. He can only position imitations of light in close enough proximity to the real thing to cause confusion in the minds of those meant to receive your assignment. The physical sensation of this tactic is a cold, hollow nausea, a feeling that something essential has been taken from you without your consent, a grief that you cannot name, precisely because the thing stolen was not an object, but a dimension of your selfhood. The intrusive thought that arrives in the wake of this tactic is the thought that perhaps you were never original to begin with, that perhaps the thing they copied was never truly yours, that perhaps you imagined the uniqueness of your assignment and what you thought was your calling was simply a pattern anyone could replicate. That thought is a lie engineered by a spirit of displacement. The spiritual action being conducted through the copy is erasure, the systematic removal of the distinction between the chosen one's authentic assignment and the counterfeit presentation of it, with the goal of having heaven's provision land in the wrong hands. But the primitive memory your soul carries is the memory of being so utterly and specifically yourself that no copy could ever hold the frequency of what you carry. You were not assembled from available parts. You were spoken into existence with a specificity that cannot be duplicated, because the combination of your wounds, your gifts, your timing, your story, and your assignment creates a frequency so particular that the universe recognizes it by name. The copy will always eventually reveal itself as hollow because it can reproduce your surface, but it cannot carry your weight. The hour of 4:44 in the morning carries a particular quality of darkness that is unlike any other. It is not the darkness of midnight, which is still wrapped in the momentum of the previous day. It is the darkness of the hour when the previous day is completely dissolved and the new day has not yet gathered its light, the hour of pure threshold, the hour when the membrane between the spiritual and the physical is at its most permeable. And it is precisely this hour that the enemy most aggressively exploits through the mechanism of sleep paralysis, that specific and terrifying experience of waking within what feels like waking, of being conscious but unable to move, of feeling a weight pressing against your chest with an intention so palpable that your nervous system floods with the primal signal of danger, even though your eyes see nothing. If you have experienced sleep paralysis, You know that language barely reaches the reality of it. It is not a dream because you are aware. It is not wakefulness because you cannot command your own body. It exists in the space between, and that space between is exactly where the enemy operates with the least interference. The weight on your chest at 444 is not a neurological misfire. It is an oppression, a heaviness being pressed into your spirit by an entity that understands the cost of allowing you to enter the coming day with your full spiritual authority intact. The physical sensation is unmistakable. The concrete pressure on your sternum, the inability to draw a full breath, the feeling that something is present in the room with an agenda aimed specifically at you. The intrusive thought in that state is the thought of death, the thought of finality, the thought that you will not get out of this, and that thought is the enemy's most intimate weapon, because it attacks not just your peace, but your will to continue. The spiritual action being conducted in that paralyzed state is a form of nocturnal court, a last-ditch attempt to reinforce the legal access the enemy still believes he holds over your life, a night session of the same tribunal that operates against you in the waking hours. But the reversal that was decreed at 444 in the throne room neutralizes this access at its root. As I teach heavily and deeply to those who arrive at the 3 keys to a prosperous life trilogy, I've already left the link for you in the pinned comment. This weight on your chest is just a symptom, the physical echo of a spiritual case that has already been dismissed. The paralysis is the feeling of chains that have already been legally broken, but not yet physically removed, and the removal begins the moment your voice, even a whisper, even a barely audible breath shaped into the name above all names, activates the angelic assignment already positioned in your atmosphere. The weight lifts because it must. It has no legal standing any longer. The blood spoke. You have noticed it. You have lived with the low-grade bewilderment of it for long enough that it almost became normal, which is precisely what the enemy intended. Lights that flicker when there is no electrical reason for them to flicker. Technology that malfunctions at the exact moments when your spiritual momentum is peaking. The car that breaks down the morning of the opportunity. The phone that dies in the middle of the conversation that would have changed everything. The document that corrupts, the message that never arrives, the connection that drops, the system that crashes. You attributed it to Murphy's Law, to the general entropy of a world where things break and timing is imperfect. But what you were experiencing was not entropy. It was interference, the specific and targeted disruption of material systems by spiritual oppression operating through the electromagnetic frequencies generated by your own stress and the amplified negative energy of those assigned to keep you suppressed. This is not mystical speculation. Every living being generates a measurable electromagnetic field, and when that field is saturated with oppression, with fear, with the accumulated weight of coordinated spiritual attack, it creates a disruptive resonance in the material world immediately surrounding the carrier of that field. The burned-out light bulb, the failed appliance, the crashing system, these are not random events. They are the material evidence of a spiritual war that has been raging in your atmosphere. The physical sensation of this pattern is a deep and specific exhaustion. The exhaustion not of overwork, but of constant interference. The exhaustion of someone running a race, where the track itself keeps shifting. The intrusive thought is the thought of unworthiness of good things, the thought that somehow you carry a curse that destroys what touches you, and that thought is perhaps the most dangerous weapon in the enemy's arsenal because it turns your own creativity and provision instinct against you. The spiritual action here is sabotage, operating through material disruption, designed to drain your resources, your momentum, and your confidence in your own capacity to build and sustain. But the divine promotion embedded in this reversal is the moment when the disruption stops, and it will stop because the decree issued at 4:44 over your life specifically addresses the interference assignment and revokes the access that powered it. When that revocation lands in the physical realm, and it will, the things that were being disrupted will not merely resume functioning. They will function with an ease and a continuity that will feel almost jarring after years of fighting friction in everything you tried to build. Acceleration does not just mean speed. It means the absence of the drag that was always artificially imposed. Walk into a room where someone who hates you is present before they see you, before anyone announces your arrival, before any social cue has been exchanged. And you will know it before you have processed a single piece of conscious information. The air changes, not metaphorically. The atmosphere of that room undergoes a measurable shift that your body registers as a physical sensation in your sternum, a tightening in your throat, a sudden awareness of your own skin, as if the room's attention has rearranged itself around the axis of your presence. This is the silence in the room that has nothing to do with the absence of sound. It is the silence of envy entering a space and immediately beginning to operate. Envy is not merely an emotion. It is a spiritual entity with an agenda, and its immediate goal upon entering the room is the contamination of the atmosphere in a way that drains the anointed person of the peace and clarity they need to operate from their highest frequency. You have sat in rooms where you felt inexplicably depleted after the interaction, where you arrived full and left hollow, where you gave nothing that should have cost you energy, and yet you were exhausted, confused, suddenly doubtful of things you had been certain of before you walked through that door. That is not social fatigue. That is energy extraction conducted by a spirit of envy, operating through a human vessel who may not even be fully conscious of the transaction occurring through their emotional body. The physical sensation is unmistakable once you learn to identify it. The heaviness in the atmosphere, the specific quality of observation coming from the direction of the one who carries it, a weight in their gaze that has texture, a flatness behind their eyes even when their mouth is performing warmth. The intrusive thought that envy deposits in you is the thought of smallness, the thought that perhaps you are too much, taking up too much space, shining too brightly for the comfort of those around you, and the implicit instruction of that thought is to contract, to dim, to apologize for the very quality of your presence. The spiritual action being conducted is atmospheric poisoning, the deliberate contamination of the spiritual climate of any space you enter so that your frequency cannot operate at full capacity within it. But here is the reversal. Every room that was contaminated against you will be cleansed before your assignment within it is complete, because the atmosphere of a chosen one operating in their full decree is stronger than the contamination any spirit of envy can produce. You do not fight for the room, you carry the room. The betrayal that undoes you most completely is never the one that comes from an enemy. You expect hostility from enemies. You have prepared for it, armored against it, built protocols around it. The betrayal that reaches into your chest and removes something that does not grow back at the same speed is the betrayal that comes from the Judas who ate at your table, who knew your fears before you had language for them, who watched you build in vulnerable moments that required trust to enter, and used those moments to memorize the architecture of your weakness for deployment at the most strategically destructive time. The unexpected betrayal is the weapon the enemy reserves for the most crucial junctures of your promotion, because he understands that the structural damage it causes is not just relational, but spiritual. When someone you trusted becomes an instrument of your destruction, the theological question it deposits in your spirit is the most destabilizing question the enemy can engineer. If the one who was closest to me could not be trusted, perhaps my discernment is fundamentally broken. Perhaps my judgment about people, about God, about myself, cannot be relied upon. That question, if left unanswered, becomes a paralytic, a spiritual paralysis that prevents you from forming the new alliances your next season requires. The physical sensation of betrayal at this depth is a physical thing, a cold that starts in the center of your chest and radiates outward, a nausea, a derealization, the sensation of the floor of your reality briefly losing its solidity. The intrusive thought is the thought of isolation as safety, the thought that closing every door is the only protection against this level of wound ever recurring. The spiritual action being conducted through the Judas in your circle is the destabilization of your capacity for covenant, the targeted destruction of your ability to trust at the depth your assignment requires. Because your calling will demand co-laborers, and the enemy knows this. He sent the betrayer to poison the well of your relational faith before the co-laborers of your next season could arrive and activate the full scope of your assignment. But the divine promotion in the betrayal is the purification it forces. Every Judas who exits your life, no matter how devastating the departure, creates a seat at the table that was always meant for someone else, someone carrying the frequency of the season ahead of you, someone whose loyalty has been tested in fires you did not witness, but whose outcome prepared them to stand in your life without wavering. The betrayal was the removal of the counterfeit, so the covenant could arrive. Your dog knew before you did. Your cat went still and watched the door before the knock came. The animal in your home that you have perhaps dismissed as simply reactive to unfamiliar stimuli was in fact demonstrating one of the most ancient and undeniable proofs of the spiritual dimension's reality. The capacity of creatures who have not been trained to doubt their perception to recognize the frequency of darkness when it enters the atmosphere of a space they have been assigned to protect. When your dog barked at the friend, when the animal in your home demonstrated unmistakable agitation in the presence of someone who performed warmth in every human interaction, you noted it and perhaps explained it away. Dogs can be territorial. Animals can be unpredictable. You had a list of natural explanations available, and you deployed them because the alternative explanation required you to trust a perception that your rational mind had been conditioned to dismiss. But the reacting animal is not malfunctioning. It is functioning at a frequency your analytical mind has been deliberately disconnected from, reporting with its entire nervous system a spiritual reality that your human perception filters out. The physical sensation this triggers in you is a retroactive chill, the chill of recognizing in hindsight that the warning was given and received but not heeded, and the weight of that recognition is part of the enemy's design. He wants you to carry the shame of not having listened, to turn the gift of animal discernment into another instrument of self-condemnation. The intrusive thought is the thought that you are naive, that you are perpetually deceived, that everyone around you can see the danger you cannot. The spiritual action being conducted against you through the people your animals react to is the introduction of a surveillance and drainage network into your most intimate atmosphere, the domestic space where you rest, recover, and receive spiritual downloads in your most unguarded state. The enemy does not want you resting well. He does not want you receiving clearly. He positions his instruments as close to your rest as possible. But the divine promotion is this: your sensitivity to the animal's warning is itself evidence of the prophetic frequency running in your bloodline. The fact that it registered, even if you did not immediately act on it, means the antenna is active. The reversal of rejection to acceptance begins here too. In the moment when you stop dismissing the signals your full spectrum perception is generating and begin to honor the entire architecture of discernment that heaven built into you. The numbers appear and you stop breathing for a second. 11:11, 3:33, 4:44. You look up at the clock at precisely that moment with a frequency so consistent that coincidence has long since become an inadequate explanation, and the sensation that arrives with the recognition is not spooky so much as sacred. a feeling of being seen through the thin membrane of ordinary time by something that operates outside it and is using the numerical architecture of your daily life as a signaling system. This is not superstition, this is communication. The universe, created by a god of mathematical precision, structured according to laws so exact that the entire cosmos operates without deviation, uses the very mathematics of your environment as a language when other channels of communication have been disrupted or drowned out by the noise of spiritual warfare. When you see 444 on a clock, on a receipt, on a page number, on a timestamp, you are receiving a confirmation that the angelic assignment mobilized over your life is active and operating in that specific hour. The numerical coincidence is not cosmic decoration, it is deployment confirmation. The physical sensation is a quickening, a sudden alertness that cuts through whatever fog the enemy has been using to suppress your awareness. A moment of piercing clarity in the middle of a season that has otherwise felt obscured. The intrusive thought the enemy deploys immediately after these moments is the thought of coincidence, the thought of confirmation bias, the thought that you are manufacturing meaning in random data because you desperately need reassurance. That thought is a suppression tactic. The spiritual action the numbers represent is coordination, heaven's method of communicating to you in a language the enemy cannot easily intercept because it operates through the structures of mathematics that he himself cannot corrupt without unraveling the fabric of the created order. The primitive memory your soul carries in response to these numbers is the memory of hearing your name spoken with authority, the memory of being addressed by the one who made you with an intimacy that bypasses all the noise and lands directly in the center of your knowing. You are not imagining it, you are receiving it. The compass is real, the coordination is real. Heaven is not silent over your life. It is speaking through every medium available, and the numbers are the frequency that cannot be jammed. And then the moment comes. After everything, after the running in place, after the poisoned smiles, after the mimicry and the paralysis and the material disruptions and the atmospheric contamination and the Judas and the animal alarms and the numerical signals, after all of the coordinated campaign the enemy ran against the fullness of your life, after seasons of near arrival followed by sudden collapse, after the version of you that went to bed crying with the question of whether any of this was real and whether the promises meant for you had perhaps been redirected, after all of it, the breakthrough comes. And you thought it would feel like a celebration. You thought the room would be full. You thought there would be witnesses and fanfare commensurate with the magnitude of what you had survived to reach this moment. Instead, you are alone. You are sitting in a space that is quiet and unremarkable, and the thing you fought for years to reach has arrived without announcement, and the tears that come are not the tears of joy you rehearsed in your imagination. They are the tears of a wound finally being permitted to close. The solitary victory is the most spiritually complex of the 10 scenes because it contains every emotion simultaneously. There is gratitude so deep it has no words. There is grief for the version of you that did not survive to see this. There is a specific loneliness that arrives from having no one around who witnessed the full cost of what it took to get here. And there is something else, something that the enemy is counting.